Joining us now with more is 2016 presidential candidate, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Senator, we know in Germany, German officials said at least 25% of the refugees flooding Germany are lying about even being from Syria. We know in Hungary, migrants were rioting, throwing rocks at police, shouting Allahu Akbar. And we know in Croatia, Muslim refugees set up camp at a Christian cemetery and they trashed the place. Our national, James Clapper, says it is almost a certainty ISIS will infiltrate. Why should we take one of these people?
Well, you know, this is one of the reasons I opposed Rubio's bill originally on immigration, because I didn't think there's enough scrutiny for those who might come and attack us. In the little town I live in Kentucky, 2 refugees came from Iraq, and they tried to buy Stinger missiles to attack us with. So, yeah, the refugee program has needed more scrutiny for a long time. So does the student visa program. Doesn't mean I'm completely against it, but for goodness sakes, we need to know who's coming. You know, one of the refugees that was flooding into Europe the other day, they had only his name and that he was from Afghanistan. And my goodness, what are the odds that he might be somebody who's going to attack the West? You need to know more about someone than just their name. He had no passport, and he was 19 years old. So, yes, absolutely, we need more scrutiny. You know,
the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, met with Vladimir Putin, and they agreed to cooperate in terms of airstrikes against some of the militants and ISIS fighters in Syria, which I think is a good idea. Believe it or not, Geraldo Rivera had an even better idea. Why not the United States and Russia and all the other countries that are helping set up a safe zone area within Syria that they would defend the refugee population, and then we could offer humanitarian assistance, etc.
I've got a better idea. Why don't we set it up in Saudi Arabia? It annoys me to death, the Saudi Arabians that were primarily responsible for 9/11, they're not doing anything. They keep pouring arms into the Syrian civil war. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire, and then the Saudi Arabians do nothing to clean up the mess
they've always played both sides. But it's the same. Why hasn't Egypt, Jordan, and the Saudis absorbed the Palestinian population over the years? The real answer is they don't want them. Isn't that true?
Frankly, Iran. Why doesn't Iran step up? The president seems to have a conversation with Iran. Why doesn't he ask Iran to take the Shiite Muslims that are fleeing? Why doesn't Saudi Arabia take the Sunni Muslims that are fleeing? Because, frankly, they're part of the problem, but they never step up to be part of the solution.
But also, isn't it true they don't want them? Because they view this as a problem for their countries. So
yeah, but the next time Saudi Arabia comes asking for weapons, this needs to be the question. If Saudi Arabia is not going to be, you saw what Saudi Arabia offered to do. They offered to build more mosques in Germany. I don't think that's necessarily the solution.
No, I don't think it is either.
Saudi Arabia gave hundreds of tons of weapons indiscriminately into the Syrian civil war. Many of these weapons, many of the weapons that ISIS has now, came from Saudi Arabia. So I do think Saudi Arabia is part of the problem, and someone needs to talk about it. And before we have refugees coming to America, I want to know why Saudi Arabia, who ostensibly is our ally, why they're not willing to take any refugees. That question should be directly asked of Saudi Arabia.
All right, well said. Good idea. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.